Well, for the last 2 years, we've been traveling around Australia in this cruiser here with our caravan in tow. We've put on over 80,000 kilometers, and in that time, we've learned a lot about our vehicle. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the last 2 years of travel and how the cruiser's held up. We'll deep dive into the costs of fuel and maintenance, as well as a full detailed damage report after 2 years of forward driving, towing, touring, the whole lot. And we'll also touch on some repairs and upgrades that we need to do in order to keep us on the road and adventuring for the next year.
Well, the past few years have looked a little something like this, and at this point we've done 2 laps of the country in the old girl, and not once has she let us down. Along the way, we've hit some of the worst tracks in the country, all the while towing a 3-ton home on the back. We've been all the way up to the tip of Cape York and ticked off the old Telegraph track, before heading south all the way down to South Australia, where we'd spend months navigating the peninsulas. We've also spent a ton of time travelling the entire coast of Western Australia and adventured into inland areas, towing our home on wheels into some of the most remote and desolate landscapes, spending days chasing the horizon in the desert, only passing a car or two during the daylight hours. This kind of travel would just not exist if it weren't for having peace of mind with our vehicle, and it's something that only comes with careful research and meticulous maintenance, which is what we're hoping to highlight in today's video.
Now, traveling around Australia, we knew that we needed to have a reliable and serviceable vehicle. That means we can get parts wherever, they need to be readily available, and we also don't want to be breaking down in the middle of nowhere. So reliability and serviceability were massive for us. Now, before setting off on our lap originally, there was a few things we needed to do to get this rig touring ready. And those are just a few little maintenance things like getting a pre-fuel filter. So traveling around, you can get dirty or water in your fuel, and having a pre-filter stops you from causing damage to your engine through picking up bad fuel. We also needed a catch can just to pick up any airborne oil that's in these modern diesels. They have sort of these environmental regulations now, and fitting a catch can to your modern diesel just saves that oil going back through your system and gunking up your air intake. We also needed to fit diff breathers. Now, traveling around, you never know when a water crossing is going to come up, and the sort of forward driving we like to do now, we have to travel through creeks from time to time, and just extending those diff breathers allows us to do that and not worry about getting water in our diffs. Those 3 mods, like the fuel filter, the catch can, and the diff breathers, are 3 pretty much essential mods I would do, and they're pretty easy to do myself. And lastly, I just needed to do a cheap budget basic canopy fit out. So the back of the canopy was bare. I just put some drawers and the fridge in there, and that was us ready to go touring. So those are a few modifications we did before we left, but we've actually been traveling for 2 years now, and thankfully my wife is a meticulous record keeper. So we have so many statistics on fuel, maintenance, anything and everything traveling related, and I'll get into some of those spreadsheets now. All right, so we always get questions about our fuel usage, what litres per 100 kilometers we get, how much money we spend on diesel a week, and I can tell you the first year of travel, 2023, was just after COVID, so fuel was a little bit more expensive then, keep that in mind. We spent $16,000 on diesel. That's some big bickies there, and we did pretty much a full lap around Australia in 2023. 2024, we've spent almost $10,000, so we're 10 months into our travels for this month, so roughly about $1,000 a month. And we also stayed in places a little bit longer because we learnt from our first year of data that we needed to make a few changes, and staying in places for longer saves us a lot of money on fuel. And our average while towing is about 22 litres per 100 Ks. Now, obviously if you're towing up hills or if you've got headwinds, we try to avoid headwinds. We try to travel on good days, but sometimes you just can't avoid that. And but we have seen up to like 25 to 27 litres per 100 Ks. This thing hasn't got a tune or anything. It's bog standard, and it pulls our 3.5 tonne van fine. Sometimes on the headwind days, we are limited to 90, 95 kilometers an hour, but overall, it's pretty economical for an old V8, like it's a 4.5 litre V8. All right, so that's our fuel costs. Now we'll go into our maintenance costs, which were definitely a lot more than what we anticipated for our first year of travel, and it's something that we adjusted our budget accordingly for the next year of travel. And in 2023, we spent $9,900 on maintenance. So that includes all servicing items, any maintenance items, and also we got all new tires all around, which is just something we had to do. So that's an average of $825 a month, which is a lot to put aside every month if you're traveling. 2024, it was almost the exact same. So far we've spent $8,000 with 2 months to go. and that's an $800 a month average. So yeah, roughly the same. And servicing is so important to keep up to date with when you're traveling, because it just gives you that peace of mind that you've done everything you possibly can to be preventative with your maintenance and to make sure that you're looking after your vehicle when you're traveling around. All right, well, I just thought I'd jump inside and just trawl through any of the mechanic receipts that I've got over the last 2 years, just to see if there was any like big ticket items that would have bumped that $800 a month average up. And there actually wasn't, other than the usual fluids and oils and filters and the general labor that you have when you're servicing a vehicle. We only had a few items that would have bumped those averages up, and that would be the swivel hubs. I can see that we've had those done twice, which is quite a labor intensive job. And we've also replaced 2 batteries, but other than that, we haven't had any like major mechanical issues like a gearbox failing that would bump that average up. So overall, it's been really mechanically sound. The bulk of the costs is really just maintenance and labor. And if you're planning a trip like this, I reckon like $800 a month is a pretty good amount to set aside for a year of travel. So naturally, after doing 80,000 Ks, that's quite a few services. If you're getting a service every 10,000 kilometers, that's like 3 or 4 services a year for the past 2 years. And I do that maintenance. That's something routine. I never miss a service, but also in between, in order to keep the vehicle running as best as I possibly can, I'm always changing the filters, greasing and servicing items. And that's where I use eBay. I just jump on the eBay app and I've got access to millions of listings. It's like going into a massive auto parts store, except for I could just choose what I want and get it sent to wherever we might be. And that just makes it super simple. And I've been doing it that way for years. All right, now onto the damage report. Now, cosmetically, we've done pretty well. The main thing that you have to watch out for driving on corrugated roads or stony roads is stones. They are the thing that will ruin your paint. And as you can see here on the canopy, it takes a beating. Now, this is just from the front wheels. So we've got all these stone chips along this part of the canopy. So it's peeled a bit of paint off there. Also, this guard cops it. You can see all the stone chipping on there. All the way along here on the canopy. And this is really the only damage that we've got. And we did this on the old telegraph track at Cape York. We just hit a tree root. So apart from stone chips, everything's held up really quite well. And in the canopy, we do have a little bit of cracking. So we have like some hairline cracking. This is a steel tray and we have an aluminium canopy. So I don't know if the difference in materials, like the steel with the aluminium, one's softer, one's more rigid. I don't know if that's what causes cracking, but we do have a few little hairline cracks in the canopy. Overall, she's fared really quite well considering some of the terrain that we've done. So apart from those few little things like the stone chips and the cracks in canopy, that's just minor cosmetic stuff that I can have fixed up pretty easily. We do have one big major item that we're going to have to upgrade, and that is our suspension. So we just got the vehicle back from the mechanic and he said that we've got leaking shocks, and it's no wonder with the sorts of roads that we've done with it. And suspension is also like a maintenance item that it only has a certain lifespan, so we are well overdue to upgrade our suspension, so we're going to do that. And the other thing that we were really lacking in, we've been doing a lot of night driving recently to get to where we are right now, and our lights are like candles. So whether the halogen globes aren't just cutting it anymore, that's pretty old technology. We're just going to do a full overhaul on the lights, and we'll be able to see so much clearer at night and drive a lot more safely that way. So now, before we can take off on our travels again, we need to get these upgrades done. So that's super simple though, ordering all these parts. I can just jump on the eBay website and search through all like the best brands. So I've got a pretty good idea of what brand suspension I want to get, so I can just search that up, and they've got all these different options here. You can get the best price and the best postage, so I'll add that to my cart. And I also got a pretty good idea of the lights that I want as well, so I'll search that up. I need a few different types of lights, so I need fog lights, I also need headlights, and also some new spotlights. So I can get all those different parts from different suppliers and get them all sent to the one place, and then we can install them on our vehicle and we're ready for our travels for the rest of the year. So how good's that? All right, well, that's going to wrap up today's video. Hopefully you got something out of it. We're looking forward to upgrading this cruiser and getting it back to tip-top shape before heading off on a very exciting trip coming up very shortly. So we'll see you in the next episode.